Hey everyone, it's Bix from Bix Book Summary. Today we're diving into a book that reveals the invisible force that drives our everyday actions, from how we brush our teeth to how we spend our money, and that force is habit. The book is The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and it's a fascinating look at how habits work, why they exist, and how we can change them. If you've ever found yourself repeating the same patterns over and over again, even when you don't want to, this book might just be the key to understanding why. So let's get started. Imagine this. You wake up in the morning, stumble into the kitchen, and reach for a cup of coffee. You don't think about it. You don't question it. It's just what you do. But what if that simple act of grabbing a coffee was more than just a morning ritual? What if it was part of a powerful, ingrained habit loop that your brain had wired to perform automatically? In The Power of Habit, Duhigg explains that habits operate in a three-step loop: cue, routine, and reward. Think of it as a cycle that starts with a trigger, leads to a behavior, and ends with a payoff. It's the reason why you can get in your car, drive to work, and not remember a single turn you made along the way. Your brain has memorized the route. It's become a habit. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Duhigg tells the story of Eugene, a man who lost his memory after a viral infection damaged parts of his brain. Eugene couldn't remember his own home address, but he could still find his way to the kitchen and open the fridge. Why? Because the part of the brain responsible for habits, the basal ganglia, was still intact. Eugene's story shows just how deeply ingrained habits can become. Even without conscious memory, our brains will stick to their routines. And that's why breaking a bad habit or forming a new one can feel so difficult. But here's the good news, and what makes this book so powerful. Duhigg reveals that by understanding the habit loop, we can actually reprogram our routines. We can replace the old cue, routine, reward cycle with a new one. The book outlines a practical framework for changing habits. Identify the routine, experiment with rewards, isolate the cue, and have a plan. It's about taking control of that loop instead of letting it control you. The key is not to eliminate the habit altogether, but to change the routine while keeping the same cue and reward. That's how new habits replace the old ones. Stay with me. There's a lot more to uncover. Imagine you're sitting at your desk at work. It's 3 p.m. and suddenly you feel that familiar craving for something sweet. Without even thinking, you get up, walk to the break room, and grab a cookie. It's become routine, automatic, almost like a reflex. But what if you could change that routine without giving up the reward? In the last part, we explored the habit loop: cue, routine, reward. It's a powerful cycle that shapes much of our daily behavior. But now, we're taking it a step further. This is where it gets truly transformative. Duhigg introduces us to the golden rule of habit change, a simple yet profound strategy for rewiring even the most stubborn habits. Duhigg shares the story of Tony Dungy, a football coach who took over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when they were known as the worst team in the NFL. Dungy didn't come in with complex plays or revolutionary strategies. Instead, he focused on one essential element: changing routines. Dungy understood that football players are trained to react without thinking. When the ball is snapped, they rely on deeply ingrained habits to decide their next move. The problem was that the Buccaneers' habits were working against them. They were reacting to the wrong cues and falling back into old, ineffective routines. Dungy began by identifying each player's habit loop. He noticed that when the opposing team's quarterback dropped back for a pass, his defensive players would hesitate, looking for cues from their teammates. That brief hesitation created a gap that the opposing team could easily exploit. Dungy's solution was to simplify the routine. He trained his players to focus on just one cue: the snap of the ball. The moment the ball was snapped, they were trained to move instantly, without hesitation. This shift was fundamental. Instead of relying on complex reactions, they simplified their response, making it automatic. The result? The Buccaneers transformed from being the league's worst team to one of the toughest defenses in the NFL. What Dungy did was apply the golden rule of habit change. Keep the cue and the reward the same, but change the routine. His approach wasn't about eliminating habits, but about replacing ineffective routines with new, more efficient ones while maintaining the original cues and rewards. This principle is the core of the golden rule. modifying the routine while keeping the cue and the reward intact. Let's circle back to that 3 p.m. cookie craving. The cue is feeling the afternoon slump. The reward is that brief moment of satisfaction and a surge of energy from eating the cookie. But the routine, walking to the break room and grabbing a cookie, can be changed. Duhigg suggests experimenting with different routines that still deliver the same reward. Instead of going for a cookie, you could take a short walk around the office or chat with a coworker. The goal isn't to eliminate the reward, but to rewire the routine so that it's healthier and more aligned with your goals. But here's the crucial part. Simply identifying the new routine isn't enough. You have to practice it repeatedly until it becomes automatic. That's what Duhigg did with his players, drilling them day after day, game after game, until the new routine became second nature. This process, known as cue routine reward substitution, is not about resisting cravings or denying the brain its reward, but about redirecting the craving toward a new, healthier routine that provides the same sense of satisfaction. The powerful takeaway here is that habits aren't fixed or unchangeable. They can be reshaped, but only if you understand the mechanics behind them. The golden rule of habit change offers a clear blueprint for doing just that, keeping the cue and reward consistent while transforming the routine in between. In the next part, we'll dive into real-life examples of how companies like Starbucks and Target use habit loops to shape consumer behavior. Imagine walking into a Starbucks. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee fills the air, the barista greets you by name, and the familiar menu boards light up with your go-to order. Without a second thought, you say Grande Caramel Macchiato, swipe your card, and wait for that first comforting sip. It feels almost automatic, like you're on autopilot. But what if I told you that Starbucks isn't just selling coffee? They're selling a habit. Charles Duhigg reveals how companies like Starbucks and Target have mastered the art of creating habit loops that keep customers coming back, day after day, cup after cup. Starbucks recognized that their true product wasn't just coffee. It was the experience, the feeling of being welcomed, recognized, and cared for in a consistent way. And to deliver that experience every single time, they created routines that their employees could follow without thinking. Duhigg introduces us to the story of Travis Leach, a Starbucks employee who struggled with anger management. Growing up in a chaotic household, Travis was prone to losing his temper whenever things didn't go his way. But when he started working at Starbucks, he was taught a specific method to handle stressful situations calmly. It wasn't just about making coffee, it was about installing new routines to replace his old, reactive habits. When a customer got angry, Travis was taught to follow the latte method, a structured response designed to manage stressful encounters without escalating the situation. First, he had to listen to the customer. Then, he would acknowledge their complaint, showing that he was paying attention. Next, he would take action to resolve the issue, whether it was remaking a drink or offering a refund. Then, he would thank the customer for bringing the issue to his attention, making them feel valued rather than dismissed. Finally, he would encourage them to return, reinforcing a sense of belonging and positive experience. These scripts weren't just about handling complaints, they were about creating a new routine that Travis could rely on whenever he felt his temper rising. Over time, the latte method became second nature to him. Starbucks had effectively reprogrammed his habit loop, transforming him from a reactive, hot-tempered employee to a calm, composed team member. The cue, a customer complaint, remained the same. The reward, resolving the conflict and maintaining customer satisfaction, also stayed the same. But the routine in between had been completely rewritten. Now let's shift our focus to Target, one of the largest retail giants in the US. Target wanted to understand its customers' shopping habits more deeply. They discovered that significant life changes, like moving, getting married, or having a baby, created a window of opportunity where shopping habits could be reshaped. They hired a statistician named Andrew Pohl to dig into customer data, looking for patterns that could predict when a shopper was going through a life change. Pohl discovered that by analyzing purchasing patterns, things like buying unscented lotion, vitamins, or large bags of cotton balls, he could accurately predict when a woman was likely pregnant. Armed with this data, Target began sending targeted ads for baby products to women before they even announced their pregnancies. But then, a father stormed into a Target store, furious that his teenage daughter was receiving coupons for baby clothes and nursery furniture. He demanded to know why Target was encouraging his daughter to get pregnant. Turns out, she was already pregnant, and Target knew it before her own father did. This incident revealed the true power of habit loops and how companies use them to influence our behavior without us even realizing it. Target was engineering habit loops that subtly nudged customers toward new routines, like shopping for baby products, while maintaining the same cue, life changes, and reward, feeling prepared for the new phase. But after the backlash, Target realized they couldn't be so obvious. Customers didn't like feeling spied on. So, they started disguising the habit loop. Instead of bombarding new mothers with baby product ads, they mixed in unrelated items: lawnmowers, wine glasses, patio furniture. The targeted ads were still there, but they were hidden among seemingly random offers, making the messaging less conspicuous and less intrusive. Duhigg's message is clear. Companies know exactly how to leverage habit loops to influence our behavior, turning ordinary routines into profit-generating patterns. But once we understand how these loops work, we can use the same principles to take control of our own habits, rather than letting companies dictate them for us. In the next part, we'll dive into real-life examples of how individuals and organizations use habit loops to achieve massive transformations, from Olympic athletes to corporate CEOs. Stay with me, because this is where habit change becomes truly powerful. Picture this. It's 1987, and Alcoa, one of the world's largest aluminum companies, is sinking fast. Profits are plummeting, morale is at an all-time low, and investors are growing increasingly anxious. Everyone is desperate to hear how the new CEO plans to turn things around. But when Paul O'Neill steps up to the podium for his first address as CEO, he doesn't talk about profits or costs or market strategies. Instead, he says, "I want to make Alcoa the safest company in America. I intend to make it safer than any other workplace." The room goes silent. Investors are baffled. Safety? How is that going to fix a struggling company? But O'Neill wasn't just talking about safety. He was identifying what Charles Duhigg calls a keystone habit, a single habit that, when changed, sets off a chain reaction that can transform other areas of life or business. At Alcoa, safety became the cue that triggered an entirely new set of routines. O'Neill implemented a strict protocol. Whenever a worker got injured, he had to be notified within 24 hours, along with a detailed plan for preventing similar injuries in the future. To meet these demands, managers had to communicate more effectively, solve problems faster, and streamline operations. What started as a focus on safety began to ripple outward. Communication improved, decision-making became quicker, and efficiency skyrocketed. Costs dropped, profits soared, and within a few years, Alcoa's market value had quintupled. All because of one seemingly unrelated habit: safety. Duhigg explains that keystone habits are powerful because they act as a domino effect. When you change one small habit, it can create a cascade of positive changes in other areas of your life. Think of it like planting a seed. The roots spread, touching and influencing everything around it. Imagine deciding to start running every morning. At first, it's just a single act. But as you stick with it, other things start to shift. You begin eating healthier to fuel your workouts. You go to bed earlier so you can wake up refreshed. You feel more disciplined and focused throughout the day. You begin setting goals, tracking your progress, and feeling a renewed sense of purpose. All those changes stem from that one keystone habit: running. Duhigg also tells the story of Lisa, a woman who felt trapped in a cycle of smoking, overeating, and accumulating debt. She tried countless times to change her life, but kept falling back into old patterns. Then, after a brutal breakup, she made a single decision that would change everything. Lisa decided to run a marathon in Egypt. To do that, she had to quit smoking. But as she trained, other routines began to change. Instead of smoking when she felt stressed, she went for a run. Instead of eating junk food, she chose meals that would fuel her body. Over time, her new routines began spreading to other areas of her life. She lost weight, paid off her debts, went back to school, and completely transformed herself. But it all started with that one keystone habit: running. Here's the takeaway. If you're feeling overwhelmed by the idea of changing multiple habits at once, don't. Start with one keystone habit. Identify the one small change that, if you stick to it, could ripple out and create a cascade of positive changes in other areas of your life. For Paul O'Neill, it was safety. For Lisa, it was running. For you, it might be going to bed earlier, planning your day the night before, or cutting out just one unhealthy snack. The key is to start small and stay consistent, because small changes can lead to big results. But it all begins with identifying that one keystone habit. In the next part, we're going to uncover the secret weapon behind every successful habit change: belief. And trust me, it's more powerful than you think. Stay with me. This is where the real transformation begins. Imagine standing at the starting line of the New York City Marathon. You're surrounded by thousands of runners, each with their own story, their own reason for being here. For some, it's about testing their physical limits. For others, it's about proving something to themselves. But for one man, it's about survival. Meet Bill Wilson. Bill was a man whose life was unraveling. He was a struggling alcoholic who had tried countless times to quit drinking, but always found himself sinking back into the same destructive patterns. Nothing worked. He felt trapped in a cycle of shame, regret, and failure, until one night he found himself in a small church basement, surrounded by other men who shared the same struggle. That basement would become the birthplace of Alcoholics Anonymous, a program that would go on to change millions of lives. But what made AA so powerful? Why did it succeed where so many other attempts at quitting failed? Charles Duhigg reveals that it wasn't just the support meetings or the 12 steps that made AA so effective. It was the introduction of a single transformative element: belief. Duhigg explains that habits are incredibly difficult to change because they become hardwired into our brains. Even when we try to resist the urge to drink, smoke, or procrastinate, the craving still lingers. And when stress hits, when life becomes overwhelming or painful, we fall back into old routines because they feel familiar, comfortable, and automatic. But belief acts as a circuit breaker. It gives people the strength to push through the cravings and stick to new routines, even when life gets tough. In AA, members are encouraged to surrender to a higher power, whether that's God, the universe, or even just the support of the group. It's not about the specific belief, but about the act of believing itself. Belief provides a sense of strength and purpose, a reason to keep going when the cravings hit and the old habits resurface. It becomes the glue that holds the new routines together, preventing people from slipping back into the destructive cycles they're trying to escape. Duhigg also revisits the story of Tony Dungy, the football coach we discussed earlier. When Dungy first started coaching the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he introduced new routines to the team, but they kept losing. Why? Because when the pressure was on, when the game was on the line, the players reverted to their old habits. They didn't fully trust the new system. They didn't believe in it yet. Then, something changed. In a critical game, the team executed Dungy's new routines perfectly and pulled off a stunning win against a top-ranked opponent. That victory was more than just a game. It was a turning point. The players finally believed that the new system worked, that they could win, that they were capable of greatness. From that point on, the Buccaneers became a different team. They started winning consistently, not just because of the new routines, but because they believed in those routines. That belief became the catalyst that transformed the team from perpetual losers to champions. Duhigg's message is clear. You can change a habit without belief, but it's incredibly difficult. True transformation happens when you start to believe that change is possible, that you're capable of more, that the new routine is worth it. But what if you don't feel that belief yet? How do you cultivate it when it doesn't come naturally? Duhigg suggests 3 powerful strategies to ignite belief. First, join a group. Surround yourself with people who have already made the change you're striving for. When you see others who have successfully broken the cycle, it reinforces the belief that you can do it too. It creates a sense of community, a shared struggle, a collective momentum. Second, celebrate small wins. Track your progress, no matter how small. Every little victory, every day you resist a craving, every time you stick to your new routine, is a reminder that change is possible. Each small win strengthens the belief that you're moving in the right direction, that you're capable of overcoming old habits and building new ones. Third, reframe setbacks. Instead of viewing setbacks as failures, see them as part of the process. Every relapse, every moment of weakness is a learning opportunity. What triggered it? What can you do differently next time? This mindset shift prevents a single misstep from derailing your progress. It keeps you focused on the long game, reminding you that change is a journey, not a single event. Belief is the invisible force that powers every habit change. It's what takes a group of struggling alcoholics and turns them into sober survivors. It's what transforms a losing football team into champions. And it's what can turn your small habits into life-changing routines. In the next part, we're going to wrap up the book by exploring how to apply these principles to our personal lives. How can we take everything we've learned about cues, routines, rewards, and belief, and use it to create habits that serve us rather than control us? Stay with me. This is where the real transformation begins. Imagine you're standing at a fork in the road. To the left is the well-worn path of your old habits, the ones that keep you stuck, procrastinating, repeating the same patterns over and over again. To the right is a new path, uncharted, uncomfortable, but leading to the life you actually want to live. This is the pivotal moment that Charles Duhigg describes in the final section of The Power of Habit. It's the point where everything you've learned about cues, routines, rewards, and belief comes together. It's the moment you choose to take back control. Duhigg introduces a powerful tool called the Habit Loop Worksheet, a simple framework designed to identify and change any habit in your life. It's about breaking down the habit loop step by step to understand what drives it and how to transform it. The first step is to identify the cue. Think of a habit you want to change. Maybe it's reaching for a snack every afternoon, scrolling through your phone before bed, or hitting the snooze button multiple times every morning. The key here is to pinpoint the exact trigger that sets the habit in motion. Ask yourself questions like, where am I? What time is it? What's my emotional state? Who is around me? What was I doing just before the habit started? Duhigg explains that cues typically fall into one of 5 categories: location, time, emotional state, other people, or the preceding action. By pinpointing the exact trigger, you begin to see the moments that ignite your habit loop. Next is to define the routine. The routine is the actual behavior, the thing you do without thinking. For example, every time you feel stressed, you might reach for a cigarette or scroll through social media. It's essential to write down the action clearly and honestly. The more specific you are, the easier it will be to change. But the tricky part is identifying the true reward, the real reason behind the routine. This is where Duhigg encourages experimentation. Let's say you always grab a snack in the afternoon. Is it the taste you're craving, the break from work, or the brief social interaction in the kitchen? One afternoon, instead of grabbing a snack, you might take a short walk, call a friend, or drink a glass of water. Pay attention to how you feel afterward. Did it satisfy the craving? If not, what are you still yearning for? This process helps you uncover the actual reward that's driving your habit. Once you understand the reward, you can start to create new routines that provide the same payoff in healthier, more productive ways. Duhigg illustrates the power of understanding habit loops through the story of Angie Bachman, a housewife who fell into a devastating gambling addiction. A casual visit to a casino to escape boredom and loneliness. But over time, it became a destructive routine. Her cue was feeling bored or lonely. The routine was driving to the casino. The reward was the thrill of winning and the distraction from her life. The casino, however, knew exactly what it was doing. They tracked Angie's spending, identified her triggers, and sent her free offers whenever she stayed away too long. They knew her habits better than she did, and they exploited them until she lost everything: her savings, her home, her relationships. Angie's story is a powerful reminder of how our habits can be manipulated if we're not aware of them. But it also shows the importance of recognizing and reprogramming our routines before they spiral out of control. Now that you've identified the cue and the reward, it's time to create a new routine. The goal isn't to eliminate the habit entirely, but to replace the old routine with a new, healthier one. If your cue is feeling bored and your reward is distraction, try replacing the routine with a quick walk, a 5-minute breathing exercise, or a conversation with a coworker. The key is to keep the cue and reward the same while changing the routine in between. But understanding the loop isn't enough. Duhigg emphasizes the crucial role of belief. It's not enough to simply identify and swap routines. You have to believe that change is possible. In Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, members reinforce this belief through group meetings and shared experiences. They see others who have successfully broken the cycle, and that proof strengthens their own belief that they can do it too. It's not just about breaking the habit, it's about believing that a different life is within reach. You can cultivate this belief by surrounding yourself with people who have successfully changed similar habits, celebrating small wins along the way, and reminding yourself daily why this change matters. Duhigg closes the book with a profound reminder. Habits aren't destiny. They are patterns of behavior that can be rewritten with enough awareness, intention, and courage. The next time you catch yourself falling into an old routine, pause and ask yourself, what new routine can I insert here that aligns with the life I want to create? That single question can change everything. If this summary resonated with you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Bick's Book Summary. And if you're ready to dive deeper into the science of habits and learn how to truly take control of your life, check out the link to the book in the description below. Until next time, I'm Bix. Stay intentional, stay aware, and keep creating the habits that shape the life you want to live. See you in the next one.